Hey everybody, welcome to Teensy Vintage. This is Teresa, and today we are doing a mixed media collage featuring David Bowie and Iggy Pop. I don't remember where I got this image from, but it was so just fun and weird and playful. I think it's from the 80s, from how young they look. Not sure, but apologies to the photographer. I'm so sorry. Don't know who it is. If I find out, I will put his or her name in the description below. Okay, that said, fussy cutting our two heroes out of the page here. And boy, howdy, did I don't know. I think I just didn't have a lot of patience. Cutting out this photo was just such a pain in the neck. I don't know. Anyway, I got it done, but holy cow, boy, was not in a mood to fussy cut last night. And this image has all these tiny little nooks and crannies. And I tell you, yeah, it was a lot. Anywho, the substrate we're going to be working on, which I just moved out of the way, is a big piece of junk mail. It's 13 by 9 inches. Some window company sent it to me. They're dying for me to get new windows for my house, which granted, I do need new windows, but I don't have 10 grand right now, so that will have to wait. Unless there's a sugar daddy or a mommy out there who wants to buy me some windows. Okay, but seriously, I finally got the two fellas cut out, and I'm gonna move all my little scraps out of the way. And I'm just gonna cut those last little bits, trim off any more little white pieces that are just sticking onto shoes and knees and legs and all that stuff. Okay. Yeah, I am really excited about junk mail. I love it. It's free art materials. Frankly, I get all kinds of stuff in the mail, and I love to upcycle it. And you can use these cardboard mailers for all kinds of projects. You can make junk journals out of them. You can make portraits or pictures out of them, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to be using a sponge brush to apply some matte gel medium. And that is how I am going to stick my background paper down. And we're using a particular thing today. Instead of just scraps and other oddities, we're using some Tim Holtz Ideology collage paper in the Halloween variant. And I just happened to see this. I tidied up my studio on Friday and came across this tube of tissue paper, collage paper. It's a little stronger than tissue paper. If you haven't used this stuff, it's pretty nice. It is easy to adhere. Excuse me. It is transparent, so you will still see whatever's underneath. Now, if you wanted it to be white underneath, then I suggest you put down a layer of white gesso or white acrylic paint, and then glue down the collage paper on top of it. But I didn't care. I kind of liked the variations in color, and it just added a little more depth in its own way. And I'm using what is this thing called? I don't know what this thing is called. It's from scrapbook.com, and it's just basically a wedge, and I use it to smooth out things when I glue them down. That way you don't get a bunch of wrinkles. Now this paper will wrinkle, so it's very important to have something nice and smooth, to adhere it. And yeah, you could use your fingers, but honestly, it's just easier to have a flat surface. You could use an old credit card or a piece of junk mail or any kind of little piece of smooth cardboard. Yeah. So now that I have almost all of my substrate covered, I noticed there was a spot left, so we're going to add here one more piece of this collage paper and smooth it out. There we go. And I noticed a little bit didn't have glue, so we're going to glue down those corners. That's another thing to check for, is make sure all your corners are glued down. Corners seem to get away from me. Okay. So we're all done with the paper. I'm going to put it back in the tube so it stays nice and clean, because y'all know I'm a little bit of a mess. Okay, and we're going to dry it. It didn't really curl, which was a nice little surprise. There's some curling later, but for now, cardboard didn't curl. I was really happy about that. I'm going to trim off all of the excess. And I'm still using my crappy pink scissors. I'm going to get some new scissors, I promise. I know I've said that for like the past 3 videos or something, but I really will do it, I promise. Okay, so we're going to get all the extra stuff clipped off. Ta-da! And I like this background. It's got this goth lace and some music notes, some handwriting, and some magnolia leaves, I think. Or just maybe a magnolia blossom here or there. Nice and noir, as the French say. All right, so now I'm going to audition some spots for them. Upside down. Oh, horizontal. That made me giggle. I think we'll just go with good old, vertical and kind of in the middle. So I'm trying to pull out a few paints just to see what color I'm feeling. Red is nice, but I don't know. It's a little too happy, I guess. I wanted something a little moody. So we're going to go with some Tim Holtz acrylic ink in Villainous Potion. And apparently this jar is near the end because it did not want to come out of that bottle. So I think I need to add that to my shopping list. All right, and we've got a nice big paintbrush here. This is a, what is this? 3/4 inch brush, Royal and Langnickle. I'll put it in the description with the other supplies. Just a nice round tip brush. This paint went on pretty dark, and I kind of thought it wouldn't be so thick, because usually these little craft paints are on the translucent side. So I added some water to the paint. I ended up adding more water to the surface, and boy, it was on there. So I did some drying to see if that would help. And all I've done here so far is to just put this nice purple color in the center, and I'm actually going to take some up with a napkin. And now I'm happy with it. There we go. Yeah. And I want to make sure everything's nice and dry before I go on to the next step. Okay. Clean up the paint. It's always good to just put a little bit of paint out to use. You can always add more, but getting it back in the bottle, not really an ideal thing. Since the paint was not really what I thought it was going to be, I've switched over to using some ink. This particular one is a Distress Oxide ink in Victorian Velvet. And I'm just going around the edges. So anything that's white on the top of my canvas is going to be this pink. And it's a pale pink. It's more on the orangey side, I guess. It's kind of a dusty rose. But it worked okay with this purple. I didn't hate it. And then I'm also going to use a Distress ink in Peacock Feathers, which is a beautiful aqua turquoisey kind of color. And that's going to be here on the bottom. This turned out really nicely. I loved it. It went on top of this collage paper beautifully. So, pro tip, the collage papers from Tim Holtz really work well with inks, not so much with the paint. Um, I mean, it was okay, but it's not beautiful. If I did this again, I would use Villainous Potion, the purple ink instead of the paint. Just because I think it would give me a more even coverage and really let that collage paper shine. I'm gonna dry the back a little bit. And here's where it started to curl a bit, but nothing too bad. That's me cooling off the paper after using the heat gun. Okay, now we've got our fellas. So it's really dark in the middle, not hugely crazy about that. I'm trying to figure out what I can do to highlight our focal piece. I'm trying some paper. That first paper was just way too patterned and loud. It clashed quite a bit. I liked the starbursts, but not really the colors. Then I got this piece of scrapbook paper. It has some faded musical notes, and it was like, no, it doesn't really work either because it was very yellow. So instead, I said, you know what? Let's just get out our good old gesso and see what we can do with that. So I've got an old card. I think this is one of those cards that the cable company sent to say, hey, get some cable. And I'm using the corner of it to give very specific looking marks. It kind of ends up looking like a little mountain range, which I thought was pretty cool. But it's just to be really visually interesting and not just a bunch of white smudges. And so I'm kind of using the card as a stamp at this point. Started using it just to smudge some gesso on there and then use the corner to stamp some points. And now we want to dry this, make sure everything's nice and dry before moving on to our next step. Okay, this is looking good. Now we can put our fellas down. Now they really pop. Haha, Iggy Pop, he pops. Of course he does. So I'm adding some more of the gel medium, and I'm going to gently apply more gel medium over the top of my focal point, and now they are glued down. Don't add too much here, just a nice light layer because you don't want to saturate your paper too much because then it could tear. Okay, and so now we're going to get out the archival ink in jet black. Also got out a Stabilo all pencil, but I don't know, it didn't really do what I wanted it to do on top of the gesso, so I mopped up a little bit of it, but kind of really just left it alone. Now I'm going to go around all the edges of this piece with the black ink just to hide the white cardboard and just make it look pretty. All right. It needed something else, so I took out some Posca paint pens. And I've got a yellow, black, white, and I end up also with a pink. But I just start making some marks just to add another visual layer to the page. I mean, this is a pretty fun, fantastical kind of picture. They're jumping in the air. Since I don't have to like put the ground under them, since they're jumping, I just went with this idea that there they are floating. Adding some little yellow dots. I will say this yellow color, I did have to go back over my dots because the yellow, when it dried, got a little paler and I wanted it to stick out more. But yeah, just little clusters of dots here and there I am covering up or giving a second layer to some of those dots. And I was like, this needs something else. So now I'm going to give a yellow halo to Iggy. And then Mr. Bowie, he's going to get a pink halo. And this is just something fun you can add to any characters. Also going to add some pink dots here and there just to spread the love around. If you're ever not sure what to do, add more of another element that you've got on the page. It will help tie the page together. And think about it in groups of 3s or 5s or just whatever looks good. The more you do it, the more you can eyeball it. I didn't count all those X's. I just made the little X's and dots until I was happy with it. But yeah, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate y'all. Hello to all my new subscribers this week. Love you. Thank you for subscribing. And I will see y'all next time.